Welcome back to another episode of Growth Marketers Podcast. I'm Samuel Timothy.
And I am Taylor Rowe. Today's episode, we put together a list of 5 ways that marketers, business owners can actually benefit from an economic downturn. Obviously, there's a lot of uncertainty right now in the market, and so as marketers, we have to look at how can we prepare for the future. So hopefully you guys enjoy. If you do, please give us a like. Don't forget to subscribe to whatever you're listening to the podcast, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please share the episode with a friend or a colleague that needs to hear this message. Let's jump right in.
So Taylor, it's been, the last two and a half years or so, it's been the craziest that any one of us have ever lived through. First it was the pandemic, and then now this inflation that's rising so rapidly, and all these supply chain shortages, worker shortages, all these things, and the economic downturn is affecting every possible sectors that you can imagine. So this could be a time where business leaders and marketers can become fearful and be anxious on what they can do proactively and kind of pull back on their efforts. Or it could also be an opportunity for business leaders to be more active on things that they can do. So I know for our episode today, we put together some things that marketers, specifically what marketers can do proactively to be ahead of the game as opposed to kind of falling behind and being a victim at the end of the day. Let's talk about some of those things that our marketers can do during this economic downturn so they could be winning rather than losing during this sort of a downturn in the economy.
Yeah, absolutely. We wouldn't be true marketers if we weren't trying to spin an economic downturn in favor of us as marketers. But that's kind of what we have to do, right? We have to look at, is there a silver lining? How can I take advantage of a situation, right? And one of the biggest things, the first thing we put together on this list, is one of the biggest challenges that we've seen companies face, as you mentioned, kind of as things were going really great with the economy, is talent shortages, right? Talent is in such high demand, especially for talented marketers. There's so much money that's being, flying in to digital space in particular, and to be honest, there's only a handful of really high level marketers that understand digital and how it can benefit an organization, right? And so if you look at that as the biggest challenge, well, in an economic downturn, what's going to happen? We're already seeing big companies in particular really laying people off. So that means that talent pool should, in theory, increase, which means now you can capitalize by hiring top talent. If you're a small to mid-sized business and you're looking for top talent, the first people that, unfortunately, these big companies are going to cut is the highly paid executives, and marketing is one of the first things that organizations cut. So if you have the ability, you have the cash flow, you're looking for top level marketers, that talent pool should increase, and ultimately that issue of talent shortages will become less of an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are, especially in a competitive market, right? Everybody was throwing big dollars at these compensations on salaries, especially high tech and high growth tech companies. They were all hiring the top talent. And when you talk about marketing today, marketing is martech, like it's marketing and technology. Someone who is very much native to technology and can go figure softwares out and leverage different ad platforms and mediums to reach prospective customers. Play in all these different fields. So it's not the old school marketing skills that required to run these marketing organizations. So if companies are laying them off, unfortunately they are getting laid off not because of their lack of skill set, but just because of financial reasons. So it's an opportunity for business leaders to find those sort of talents that are in the market actively looking, and possibly get them at a much discounted compensation structure than what they are probably used to.
Yeah, absolutely. And the second one is, similar in the same vein there. The other issue that's been plaguing marketing departments and organizations is high turnover, right? Mm-hmm. Not only is it hard to get and find top talent, it's been really hard to keep top talent because the demand is so high that top employees are jumping ship and looking for, obviously, to better themselves and better their career, better their salary, and certainly can't blame anybody for doing that. But as times become more uncertain, people want stability, right? And so employees are less likely to leave. So you as a leader, running an organization, running a marketing department, we need to capitalize by rewarding your top employees, right? And in rewarding that loyalty to your organization, so that we can, keep a tight knit group. You can keep your A players, and ultimately, your company will benefit from that.
Do you have any practical examples of things that might be, ideas to give them more incentives?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to communication, right? It's figuring out what your employees want, what's important to them, flexibility, freedom with their schedule. Obviously compensation is huge. Depending on the size of the company, a lot of people are, offering basically, partial ownership in the organization. So there's a lot of different things that can be done. I mean, I think that's done on a case by case basis, but really, obviously getting to know what your employees are looking for, what they want, what's important to them, and try to keep them as long as possible, and make it well known, right, to the organization that you appreciate the hard workers that you do have.
Yeah, most certainly. And I think turnover is a very costly endeavor. I think HubSpot done a study during the early days of HubSpot. They said the average cost of losing an employee, especially in the sales role, was like a BMW 7 Series. So it's imperative that you can find ways to to keep the talent that you have, and continue to engage them in the organization, right, and retain them as long as you can. So that's definitely more. Two of them are primarily around the talent retention, or getting new talent to join your company. So what are some of the other options that we have in terms of marketers that we can do proactively?
Yeah, I think we have to look historically, right, at what happens in our economy, what happens to businesses, what happens to spending when we see an economic downturn, or if we end up go into a recession. What happens obviously is, again, people cut back on their marketing spend. So if you look at that as your organization, and you look at your market as your competitors, right? Because that's what they are. Your competitors are scaling back on marketing. That gives you the opportunity to double down and invest into your marketing, right? There's a Warren Buffett quote that I love about be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. And I think that's the position that, if you can afford to take, you need to take when it comes to your marketing, and strike when the iron is hot, right? Eat up the competition when you can.
Yeah, and I think when everybody else is slowing down, you're also, the natural tendency is, okay, maybe we should also pull back on our spend.
Right.
And I think, from having been in the marketing space, I think if you ever been in a downturn in economy, the number one thing most marketers or most organizations will cut is the marketing. Because it's the easiest to cut off from your budget, and you feel like you're not going to it's not going to impact the business as much, but you're giving up long-term gain by just this short-term cut. But you forget that there's a residual value of being very active with your marketing and building your brand, and being very strong even in a short, in a small economy, in a bad economy, because people are going to recognize you have a much better, your dollars are going to be stretched much wider. You're going to have a lot more opportunity to reach your audience more efficiently. And these are times when competitors completely disappear from the marketplace and are going to leave a void, and you have an opportunity to capture that market share that you probably didn't have before.
Yeah, and we've seen this firsthand. Actually, and when you started the company, we went through a recession. We've seen it kind of on a mini level with 2020. We saw, some of our clients that did exactly what we're recommending right now, which is, invest as much as they could, and try to be as active as possible, looking at, basically free, channels as much as possible. Anything to stay active while their competitors, like you said, closed up shop and, kind of waited for things to change. And unfortunately, a lot of those, companies went out of business. But our clients that listened to this advice, they came out thriving on the other end. So definitely was some dark times there during 2020, but it was unprecedented as well. And again, the people that kept their foot on the gas as much as they could are still thriving on the other end.
And it doesn't necessarily mean you're just wasting, marketing dollars wherever you
No,
see,
right.
a void. But you have to be very strategic, and especially the benefit of being a marketer today is that you have a lot more visibility into where your marketing dollars are going, so you can be more refined and targeted, and you can actually then double down on the things that are actually working well, and then obviously pull back on things that are probably not very effective. So I think it's just kind of like that analogy or the example that you gave from Warren Buffett. I think you just don't be greedy, but you also need to be very strategic, right? Like you kind of certainly want to be very smart about how you're investing your dollars. But at the end of the day, the goal is, your competitors are scaling back, but it gives you an opportunity to expand your reach.
Yeah, and that kind of takes us to our next number 4 on the list is really, if it sounds obvious, but less competitors means there's actually less competition. And what we mean by that is marketing channels, particularly things like Google AdWords or Facebook ads, the number of or the level of competition directly impacts the cost of admission, essentially, right? Google AdWords works as an auction, meaning if you have 50 competitors all bidding on one keyword, those keywords are going to increase in cost, particularly when the value of that lead or the value of that customer is high, right? We know there's industries that are paying $50, $60, $100 for just one single click on a search term. So again, in theory, competitors scale back on marketing. Companies go out of business. Well, that makes it more affordable for us to be active in some of these channels that maybe were unattainable for us, in the past. So kind of revisit your marketing strategy and look at those type of channels. If you notice, competition is cutting back on marketing, again, look at where we can potentially scale up or enter into new avenues and channels that we haven't been in the past.
Yeah, and you've seen those during election years as well, because all the election spend just takes up all the inventory that's available for marketers, and then your ability to reach your audience, even with the budget that you have, become almost extremely difficult. So when you have marketers leaving, that means you have a lot more inventory than what the advertisers are available. So that gives you a lot more opportunity to reach your customers more efficiently. And like you said, the cost also decreases, which means you are getting more for your bucks. Right, so that I think is a great opportunity. Most people don't even realize this, especially with the digital ad spend being more of a auction oriented. This is a great chance because there's not a lot of people auctioning for that visibility or that view. So that means you're getting more reach with your marketing spend.
Yeah. So number 5 on our list is kind of the common theme through all these ideas and the ways that we can benefit from an economic downturn is really just invest in the future, right? Kind of ask yourself, where do you want to be when the market corrects, right? And now we look at long-term marketing strategies would no longer have some of those pressures of immediate results, right? Because we understand that things are crazy, right? Our customers' buying habits have changed. Maybe they're going to stop spending as much money. But again, you have to look at how do we want to position ourselves. So, channels like organic search, organic social media, your own contact list or email list. Invest into some of these strategies that maybe leadership has pushed back on in the past because everything has been so immediate gratification. We spend $1, we need to make $5 right away. If we acknowledge that some of that's going to change, some things are going to take more long term, you may adjust your strategy to ultimately have a much greater benefit and greater return 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road. Again, if we all agree that, hey, we're gonna kind of put our heads down, we're gonna execute, we're gonna plow through, and we're gonna come out on the other side of this, that's really where you're gonna see that long-term growth.
Yeah, this is something that I would probably put into kind of 2 buckets. One is like invest into your own audience, and then tapping into someone else's audience. Like you alluded to, the problem with you relying heavily on just one channel, like, oh, I'm just going to focus on YouTube. We're just going to create a lot of content. What ends up happening is YouTube controls the audience. You don't have any say in who's your subscriber or whether or not they actually get to even see, even if they are your subscriber. But if you can build your own audience and create an email list out of those channels that you reach your customers through, and that email is your way to their inbox, or their contact information is your way to reach them, that actually gives you a lot more flexibility, because if you have the email list, you can invite them to a webinar, you can send them email newsletter. If you have their contact information, like their mailing address, you can probably send them something tangible. It could be a direct mail, it could be some sort of a swag or whatnot to stay top of mind with those people. So building your own list and actually building your own audience is extremely critical, regardless of what channels you're probably leveraging today to reach your end customer.
Particularly if you have been just focused on one channel, like you mentioned, we see a lot of companies that, again, because of the way that the demand is so high, that we're just focusing on, let's say, Google AdWords, right? And we'll pay the premium for the cost per click because we're just trying to get customers. We need customers as fast as possible. Well, when that demand shifts and now all of a sudden there's not as many people actively searching, how do you reach your audience, right? So like you said, companies that are going to benefit are the ones that have over time been building up your audience so that you can communicate directly with them and you don't have to rely on any channels or who's using which social media platform in this particular day, month, or year. So there's a lot of benefit to that, of building up your own audience, and if you haven't been doing that now, you got to start today, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, when you have your own audience and you have their contact information, you're not at the mercy of any social platform that might change an algorithm, and you're screwed. And that goes for even organic search as well, because we've seen websites that are getting tons of organic traffic naturally. All of a sudden, some sort of a recent algorithm update affects their organic ranking, in which all of a sudden affects their traffic and conversion. Ultimately, that's reflected on their top line. So you certainly want to have multiple ways of reaching a customer, and building your audience is the main thing. And then the other option is, how can you tap into someone else's audience, which, if there are, businesses that are complementary to yours and not competing with yours, can you find ways to partner with them to leverage their audience? And can you provide special offers to their members? Can you be a guest speaker on their platform, whether it be a webinar host, co-host, or podcast guest, or contribute content to their blog, or co-create something on their YouTube channels? Anything that you can do to reach their target audience through their current network or connections, that's an extremely efficient way to expand your reach and your customer base as well. So that could be a great way to invest into your future by really building relationship with people that are not necessarily competitors, but actually complementary to what your business does and the audience that you serve.
Absolutely. I think that's a great tip there. So those were the five tips that we had written down on the list, but we also wanted to give you a bonus tip here. Everything we've talked about up until this point, as you mentioned at the beginning, Sam, marketing is now synonymous with digital or MarTech. It's all focused on technology. But if we look back at back to our days in school and college, obviously marketing was focused on, right, like the 4 P's of marketing: product, price, place, and promotion. And so really all we've talked about is like kind of channel selection and strategy around promotion, right? Where to spend money, how to get visibility for your product. But we haven't really talked about the other 3 P's, right? And so as a bonus here, as an organization, if you can, adjust your product, right? If things are changing in the market, that means obviously the economy is changing, the market is changing. We can't just try to do the same things over and over. And so we want to look at, can we adjust our product? Could we adjust our price? Or could we adjust, kind of the way that we're positioning it in our messaging, right? So if your product or your service that you offer has a bunch of benefits about, could be driving revenue, or could be anything related to that. Well, does it also have benefits of lowering costs and improving efficiencies and lowering overhead by building automation, whatever that may be, whatever would be applicable to your customers in a time when they're struggling, if your customers are struggling, right? So not only look at your own market and look at your competitors to kind of see what's going on, but how are your customers dealing? How are they going to be impacted, right? If the price of oil, price of gas goes up, how does that impact your customers? If a labor shortage again, happens, how does that impact your customers? Or if spending goes down, how does that impact your customers? And so you look at all of these variables and these factors, and then you have to look at your product or service. And again, can we tweak it a little bit, or can we tweak the messaging Is there a way that we can cut our own costs so that we can lower the costs and pass it on to our customers? So there's a lot of companies that don't do that, right? They just sit back and say, well, this is the product that we sell, this is the price, and then obviously when things happen, there's you just complain rather than taking action. And so as our bonus here, we want to look at can we adjust our product? Can we create different variations? Basically, can we adapt to the changing times? And believe it or not, those are, again, all marketing functions that are a lot of times overlooked.
Yeah, and I think what you're describing, Taylor, is maybe more from a messaging standpoint. How do you focus on things that are probably going to resonate with them during a down economy is going to be different than what in a booming economy. They have a completely different priorities and they don't care what some of the other minor details of the product offering. So messaging could be one way to just repositioning the product that you bring to the customer, right? Really listening to what's more important to them now, and then aligning your messaging to make sure that they know that you're empathizing with their current conditions. The other one is probably just completely readjusting the pricing and the product as a whole. So maybe taking apart features to lower the product price so that it could be more attractive to them, right? Because sometimes, in a growing economy, you have all these value-added things that you offer that might look like, okay, that's good, and I'm willing to pay the price for it. But oftentimes people will be like, hey, can you remove this or remove that? So I don't need all those functions because that's not very necessary for us. I just need this most important, like the non-negotiable feature set. So maybe reworking the product pricing in the way that you probably package the product itself to make it more attractive to your customer, and maybe even different pricing models altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully this is beneficial for you. If you feel like we missed anything or you have any other, again, kind of silver linings to a potential economic downturn, please send those in. We'd love to discuss those with you. If you're looking for assistance with your own marketing strategy, of course, please reach out to us. And if you enjoyed the episode, please give us a like, subscribe, share it with a friend or a colleague, and tune in next week for next episode.
Growth Marketers is brought to you by One IMS, helping you reach new heights through integrated marketing. One world, one web, one IMS.